All right, folks, welcome. This is Coach Tim Kamsel, and I'd like to welcome you to the 6 Steps to Building a Business That Can Work Without You webinar. Being in business is a tough gig sometimes, and it's one of the loneliest jobs that there is. So first of all, I want to thank you for registering for this webinar and finding out what business coaching is and how to grow your business. There's 6 steps to growing your business that we teach here at Action Coach. And we find that by doing it this way, a systematic methodology, which by the way, we've been doing for over 27 years, has helped tens of thousands of companies. So just a show of hands or a thumbs up, however you prefer to do that. How many of you have made mistakes in your life? Yeah, awesome. How many of you would say you're experts at making mistakes? Yeah, well, for me, I have to put up both hands and even raise one of my legs. But here's the thing about mistakes is we learn to walk by falling down, right? We made a lot of mistakes, but we didn't know they were mistakes because we were given encouragement and support and love, right? All we knew is that we were doing exactly what we were supposed to be doing because of the way it was reinforced. And eventually, through that reinforcement, we learned how to walk. So what happens when we become adults? We're now taught that we can't fail, right? That we've got to hide those mistakes, right? We've got to sweep them under the rug. And eventually it ends up preventing us from putting ourselves out there. So I guarantee this evening that you're going to learn specific steps and ideas and strategies to help you stop making mistakes in your business and be a better business leader. But here's the catch. You must choose to put yourself out there and take action. So if you just simply sit and listen to this webinar, you're going to retain about 7% of the information. If you take notes throughout, that retention will go up to about 50%. And then if you fully participate, i.e. you write in different colors, you raise your hand when I ask you to raise your hand, you respond to questions that I say throughout, that retention rate will go up to 98%. So the only failure then is the failure to what? Call this out for me. Yeah, the failure to participate. So if you give 100% in this webinar, you're going to get 100% out of it. Same with your life, same with your business. If you put in 100%, you'll get out 100%. If you only put in 10%, you're only going to get out 10%. So at the end of this webinar, I'm going to ask you to take action. I'm going to present you with an offer that you're going to want to take advantage of. So can I get everyone's commitment that you're going to participate and take action this evening? Show of hands or thumbs up. Fantastic. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Canada and moved to the US in 2005. The reason that I share the Canadian piece is you're going to hear me pronounce words that don't sound right to you, but I guarantee in my head it sounds the same as it does to yourself. Well, actually, Ramon, that might sound correct to you. So you and I will compare notes at the end of this. So I started working at the age of 15, running a gas station, and I opened the store on the weekends while the owner slept in. So I had to get there at 6 a.m. Then for the past 28 years, I've had a successful career of managing businesses and coaching teams within corporations. I've had many different experiences on businesses that I'm sure you all know well, like Kentucky Fried Chicken, Raid, Off, Ziploc, Saran Wrap, Edge and Skintimate Shave Gel, Scrubbing Bubbles, Pledge, Fantastic, Sargento Cheese, Red Gold Tomatoes. And these businesses range from 1.5 million in revenue to over 500 million. In that same time, I've coached, trained, taught, and mentored well over 200 people. People I've coached have gone on to become vice presidents, presidents, and even a CEO of corporations, both here and in Canada. This is my family. On the far left is my oldest stepson, Tony. He's 26. Next to him is Enrique. He's turning 21 this year. The middle is my beautiful wife, Petrita. And in front is my youngest stepson, Adrian, and he just turned 14. So he's made a special point of telling us that he's no longer little because he's a teenager now. I've chased my career over the past 10 years, which has required me to move a number of times. And that's had a negative impact on my family. My wife's in 100% sales commission role, and it takes her about 3 to 4 years to build up her business every time I move us. And I've been moving us every 3 to 4 years. So it certainly had a negative impact on her career. This, coupled with the fact that corporations have been focusing less on employees and more on profit, led me to realize that this was no longer the right lifestyle and fit for myself and my family. Additionally, growing up, I got teased a lot for not having brand names because my parents couldn't afford them. I didn't really realize that we didn't have money until all the people at school started picking on me for it. Then my dad got hurt. He was a mechanic growing up, and he hurt his shoulder and uh, had surgery, but unfortunately, it was never repaired properly and was unable to go back to work. So as a result, I've always had a desire to help others. I was a peer counselor in high school, a lay counselor in church, was a big brother for a number of years in Milwaukee. And my number one priority in the corporate world has always been to coach and train and mentor my employees and my cross-functional team members to be able to do the job better than I can. My passion has always been helping others to become all that they can be. So with my business experience and my desire to help others, it was a natural transition for me to move into business coaching. And now my focus is to help business owners become all that they can be and benefit from my experiences as well as the Action Coach framework. So a little bit about Action Coach. It is a franchise. It's privately owned and founded by Brad Sugars, who is an entrepreneur and author. He is currently the CEO of Action Coach. The Action Coach vision is world abundance through business re-education. The idea with that is for those who take the time to re-educate themselves on how businesses should run, the sky's the limit in terms of the opportunities for them. Because the school system teaches us how to be employees. It doesn't teach us how to be business owners. So we coach about 18,000 businesses a week around the world. We're the number one coaching firm in the world. Here's a number of accolades that we've acquired over the years. And we've got about 1,000 offices in about 80 countries around the world. So my job as a business coach is to help business owners make a lot of money. It's about helping you as business owners improve your business so that you can work less and make more, which ultimately sounds too good to be true. And the reality is that it would be too good to be true if we haven't been doing it with tens of thousands of businesses around the world. The system that we use is not just based on theory, it's based on practical experience with real businesses achieving real results. So I'm going to reward you this evening for your time investment by teaching you ways to increase your sales and profits, to free up your time, and to create an amazing team. But before we get into that, I'd like to each of you to share your number one learning goal for this webinar. So go ahead and write in the chat box, what is it that you're hoping to learn tonight? And as you're doing that, I'm going to explain why I'm having you do this. So what you just did by writing down your goal is you triggered what's called your reticular activating system, or your RAS for short. So how many of you have, by show of hands or a thumbs up, how many of you had an experience where you've bought a new car and then for the next couple of weeks as you're driving that car, you seem to notice that everybody on the road has the same car that you do? You ever had that experience? Yeah. So the reason for that, it isn't that everybody bought the same car that you just bought. It's that you, by focusing on that car and making that car purchase, you've told your reticular activating system or your RAS that this thing is important to you. So now your subconscious, your RAS, is looking for that thing that you told it that is important, and it's pointing it out for you. So your RAS is part of your brainstem that controls your level of consciousness. It's incredibly powerful. Our subconscious spends all day working in the background to achieve the things that we tell it that are important. So by writing down your goal, you've told your subconscious specifically what to look for throughout this webinar so that you can solve that problem or answer that question that you wrote out in the chat box. So another way to illustrate our reticular activating system, have you ever had an experience where all day you just couldn't seem to solve a problem, but after a good night's sleep, you wake up and the answer just seems to come to you? You ever had that happen? So again, that's your reticular activating system. So you can imagine, how much it can be helping you if every night you write down your goals for tomorrow, and or every quarter you write out your goals for your business, and now your subconscious can be working on it. So to become a successful business owner, you must have yearly goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, and daily business goals. So I'm just going to read out a couple of the goals here that was stated. So first of all, leadership and time management, and then also how to be more successful with limited time availability. Yeah, time management is a huge challenge for business owners, and that is definitely something that we'll talk about this evening. Question, what if you struggle to define goals? So part of that exercise is breaking it down into bite-sized chunks. So if you have a yearly goal, then you break it down in terms of what is a baby step way to get there over the next quarter, over the next month, break it down into what do I need to achieve over the next week. There's also a tool called SMART goals, specific, measurable, obtainable, results oriented with a time frame. If you're not familiar with SMART goals, Google that. It'll help you with defining your goals. Also, that's what we do as business coaches, is we work with business owners to define their 3-year goal, their 1-year goal, their quarterly goal, their weekly goals. And so more than happy to spend some time with you offline and help you work through that. All right, so now that you've got your goals written out for this evening, right, that has become the compass for your brain. So your subconscious is going to be listening throughout this webinar on ways to solve those goals for you. Welcome, Tina. Great to have you here. Go ahead and write in the chat box what your goal is for this evening, what you want to accomplish through this webinar. All right, so how many people have heard the saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again? Show of hands. Fantastic. Yes. Okay. So most people say that they'll try, but the reality is you can't try. Okay. You either do something or you don't do something. You can't try to do something because trying is not an action. Okay. So we call this idea of doing or not doing the point of power. Okay. And you're either above the point or you're below the point. So people who are below the point of power do 3 things. Okay. I'm going to have you call these out for me. What is the first thing that people do? Go ahead, turn your mics on and shout that one out for me, or just shout to your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they blame. Fantastic. And who do they blame? They blame anyone they possibly can, right? The government, their mother-in-law, their staff, their competition. Everyone do this for me. Point at the screen as if you're blaming me for doing something. Okay. And hold your hand up there. Keep it up there as you're pointing at me. All right. Now, now, how many fingers are pointing back at yourself?
4.
Yeah. So isn't that interesting, right? That at least 3 fingers are pointing back at yourself. So I wonder, in those situations where we're blaming others, I wonder, right, who has the bigger control over that situation? The next thing on the list below the point of power is what? Call that one out for me.
Excuses.
Yes, excuses. So how many of you know kids that are experts at giving excuses? Hands up.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So, here often what happens, right, is you point out something that they always forget to do, and you're trying to be helpful, reminding them to do it, and right, and they're like, they make up an excuse of why it couldn't happen, right? But again, who did they learn how to make excuses from? And then finally, the last one below the point of power is denial. These people think that they're rock stars, but they're actually toxic to your work environment and need to be removed right away. So notice that blame, excuses, and denial can be summed up as bed. So these people are trapped in the proverbial bed of life. They give up their control and say that they can't do anything about it, and they're constantly pointing their fingers at others. Now, the opposite, above the point of power people, notice that these folks are actually taking ownership. They've grabbing their oar of life, right? And they're charting their own course. So their oar of life stands for ownership, accountability, and responsibility. So these people are taking ownership of the challenges. They are being accountable for the things that are happening in their life, and they're being responsible for making a difference in the things that are happening for them. Oh, an example of denial. Let's see. So it's similar to an excuse, but it would be things like, you know, it wasn't my fault, right? It was out of my control, right? I didn't, you know, that didn't happen because of me, right? It happened because of, right? It was just going to happen anyway, right? So you're denying your role in it. You're denying the contribution that you made to a negative outcome, right? It's similar to that idea of it's similar to the blame and excuses, but it's an inability for the person to recognize and attribute the things that they've done to the outcome that has happened. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Thanks, Tim. So pretty much the opposite of ownership or responsibility.
Yes, yes, yep, exactly. So the bed, the people below the point of power are exactly the opposite of people above the point of power. Yeah, you're right. So it's a daily choice, right? We've got a daily choice to decide whether we're going to be powerless, right? If we're going to give up our power to others, right? By blaming and making excuses and living in denial, or if we're going to be powerful by taking ownership, accountability, and responsibility. And so here's the interesting thing about this, right? Once you determine that you're going to live above the point of power, it doesn't mean that hard things are not going to happen, right? So we're still going to have the punches in the stomach, or the negative things that happen in our business or in our life that knock the wind out of us, and set us off kilter. But the most important thing is to realize that when those things happen and we do dip below the point of power, that we acknowledge that we're there, that we've allowed ourselves to become powerless in that situation, and then determine what is the next best thing that we can do to pull ourselves back out of being below the point of power. Okay? So it's a daily choice, and sometimes it's an hourly choice of, am I going to choose to allow myself to stay below the point of power, or am I going to do the next right thing to be above the point of power? So I remember one day I was in a meeting with some leadership team members and a couple of the family members, and a topic came up, and it just really frustrated me, so much so that I excused myself from the meeting. I went to my office and I packed up my stuff, and I went out to the car and I started driving home. And as I was driving, I started thinking about, I wonder what I'm going to tell my wife when I get home so early, and realized that I was below the point of power. I didn't know these terms then, but realized that what I was doing was probably not a good long-term strategy. So I turned around on the highway, went back to work, and with my tail between my legs, walked back into the meeting and excused myself for leaving. And fortunately, I was able to keep my job. So that's an illustration of, right, we're not going to always be perfect, but we need to realize when we're not and then make the right next decision. So can I get a commitment from everyone that at least for this evening, you're all going to remain above the point of power? Hands up or thumbs up? Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So anyone know teenage kids who are experts at saying, I know? You know, there's something that they always forget doing, and you say, hey, don't forget to do. And they're like, yeah, I know, mom. Or yeah, I know, dad. Right? Well, when we get older, we just become more polite at saying, I know. Right? In a meeting, we might cross our arms, or we may subtly roll our eyes, or under our breath, we may say, I know this. In fact, you may all be saying right now, Tim, when are you going to get to the good part? I know all this stuff. Right? Well, here's the challenge of thinking and saying, I know. It actually kills the possibility that we can learn something new from the conversation. Because we're telling our reticular activating system that there's no value in this conversation, so it should go off and work on the other problems that we gave it and don't pay attention to the present moment. And so we kill the possibility that even if we know 80% of the content, we're destroying the opportunity to learn those 20% nuggets that may end up allowing us to take our business to the next level. So instead of saying, I know, let's replace it with something like, isn't that interesting? Right? It keeps our subconscious open to the possibility that we're going to learn more. So again, can I get agreement, hands up or thumbs up, that you're going to stop saying, I know, and start replacing that with something like, isn't that interesting? Yeah. All right, wonderful, thank you. Okay, then the last thing about getting the most out of learning is that we must be willing to have some what? Call this one out for me. What do we have to do? Be willing to have what?
Fun.
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 Yes, we have to have fun because business is hard, right? And so it's important to build in times of fun and celebration. Right? If it's all work and all stress and all and no play, we're going to get overwhelmed and we're going to get frustrated. And so think about in your business, what fun activities can you create? What little celebrations can you create throughout the week for you and your team? One thing that we do in our family is Friday night is movie and pizza night. And so that's a way for us to transition from the work week into the weekend. And even if we're traveling, our youngest always says, hey, it's pizza night, so we have to go out to a restaurant for pizza if we're out of town. That's how much of a routine and a ritual it's become in our family. So give some thought to that. What can you build into your business to make it fun for you and your employees? All right, so there's two types of businesses. The first is the ones where the business is driving the business owner, with the business owner having their hand in all the day-to-day activities. All decisions need to be made by them. No one can do the job as well as them, and they're working 60, 70, or 80 hours a week. The other type of business is where the business owner is driving the business. They have a team that takes care of the day-to-day. Things are run very smoothly, and the owner is able to duck out early to see their kids in a school activity or have a 4-day weekend or even take 2 weeks off for vacation without worry. So how many of you know people who have given up running their business to go back to a job because they got burnt out? Show of hands or thumbs up. Yeah. Unfortunately, most business owners have actually really only bought themselves a job. And in this job, they're working more hours and making less money than they did when they worked for someone else. And over time, this leads to burnout. And unfortunately, there are too many businesses that go out of business. And in fact, the numbers are somewhere around 80% of businesses will eventually go out of business. And one of the top reasons for that is burnout. So our goal at Action Coach is to help owners to move up from being self-employed, moving up the entrepreneurial ladder, from being self-employed to going from employee to self-employed to eventually a manager where you've got a few people working for you, to a business owner where the business is able to run without you, to an investor, to an entrepreneur. So what do you think holds us back from climbing the entrepreneurial ladder? It's our preference for our comfort zone. We all enjoy our status quo. We all enjoy the safety of what we know. And unfortunately, our resistance to change more times than not holds us back from achieving the things that are possible in our business and in our life. So whenever we feel like we're stuck, we've got to look at this formula for change. So the formula is D times V plus F is greater than R. So our dissatisfaction with our current situation times a vision of a better tomorrow, plus an understanding of the first steps to get there, must be greater than our resistance to change. So if we're not finding ourselves willing to change, we've got to look at each of these. Maybe we're just not dissatisfied with our current situation, or we haven't spent enough time realizing how dissatisfied we are with our current situation. We've got to spend some time there first, right? And really analyze, how bad are things today? And then maybe we just don't have a really good, clear picture of what a better tomorrow could look like. So we've got to spend some time painting that vision of the future and internalizing and getting excited about that better tomorrow. Or maybe we just don't understand how to change, right? We don't understand what the first steps to achieving that vision look like. And so we're kind of paralyzed because we don't know what to do next. And so we may need to spend some time there. And so I congratulate you all for investing your time this evening to understand what the first steps to that change formula could be by learning this evening on how to build a better business. So at Action Coach, we define a successful business differently than most. To us, it's not about buying ourselves a job. It's about becoming a business owner of a successful business. And we define a successful business as a commercial profitable enterprise that can work without you, the business owner. And we have a methodology to build this successful business called the 6 steps. And I'm going to walk you through those. So step 1, call that out for me. What's step 1?
Mastery.
Mastery.
Yes, mastery. So how do we know if we're a master of something? It's because someone usually comes to us and asks us to teach them how to do it. But here's the problem: when people start a business, do you think they're a master at running a business? No, they're a master at their art or their craft or their trade, right? They're a master of carpentry or baking or engineering, or a master of being an accountant or a lawyer, or whatever it is that their art or their craft or their trade is. So instead, we all need to become masters at running the business. This is all about eliminating the chaos in the day-to-day operations of the business. All right, step 2, what does that one? Call that one out for me.
Niche.
Yeah, niche or niche, however you want to pronounce it. It's pronounced differently around the world. Okay? And so how do you know if you don't have a niche in the marketplace? You don't have a niche in the marketplace if you compete on price. The day you compete on price, you do not have a niche, because all you're doing is dropping your price to compete with your competitors. So this step is all about marketing to bring in a predictable cash flow. All right, step 3, what does that one? Call it out for me.
Leverage.
Yes, leverage. So the key to leverage in business is systems. So it'll be up to everybody to help systematize the company to make it run more efficiently. And this is where we're able to buy back our time. All right, then we build a team, then we hit synergy, and ultimately we get to the results that we set out to to achieve when we started our business in the first place. So that's the 6 steps that we need to get to massive results and grow our business. So now I'm going to walk through each of these steps in a little bit more detail, starting with mastery. I'm going to go back to that definition that I shared earlier of a commercial profitable enterprise that can run without us. And at the mastery level, what we're focusing on is simply building a commercial enterprise. And there's 4 areas of mastery that we need to focus on. The first is destination mastery. This is all about the idea from Stephen Covey of begin with the end in mind. So we've got to create a picture and a detail of what does our business look like when it's done. How much is it worth when it's done? What's the revenue? What's the profit? How many employees are there? And what year is this business finished? Then we can work backwards from that and determine what does that look like in 3 years from now, and in 1 year from now, and this quarter. So I have a client who went through this exercise, and she defined her business as it's going to be $1 million in 5 years from now. But unfortunately, she didn't have any goals in place to get there. So when we started working together, we then broke that down in terms of, okay, what does that look like in 3 years from now and in 1 year from now? And what does it look like this quarter and this month? And what does it look like this week? So that then she could start working towards her end in mind goal, her ultimate destination mastery. The next area is money mastery or financial mastery. Okay? This is all about ensuring that you've got a solid understanding of the financials in your business, and you're making business decisions based on understanding your monthly financials. So things like a monthly profit and loss statement and a balance sheet and weekly cash flow projections that go out 4 to 8 weeks, and having margin targets and tracking your business against your margins, right? Just ultimately having a master level understanding of your financials. I had a client who, before we started working together, they said, hey, Tim, I don't know my numbers. I just give all my stuff to the accountant at the end of the year, and I pray that they tell me that I made money. Okay? So that's not the right way to manage a business. That's not money mastery, but that's actually where most small businesses are. So part of the journey is getting a better handle of the financials and being able to track the numbers on a monthly basis. The third area is time mastery. And a couple of you had mentioned that in your goals for learning this evening. So most business owners I talk to can't imagine finding 4 to 5 hours a week to do the things, the working on their business activities that we require of them as part of the coaching program. So that's usually where we start. So time mastery is all about knowing where you should be spending your time. So having a strategic allocation of working on the business time versus working in the business time, having something like a default diary where you're blocking out your time and allocating it to the priorities that are most important for your business. And then ongoing doing something like a time study where you're evaluating where are you spending your time versus strategically where should you be spending your time, and then using that tool to be able to course correct and keep yourself accountable. So ultimately, right, you're getting the time wasting activities off of your plate. You're delegating activities that should be delegated to free up your time to focus on the most important areas of the business. And then finally, delivery mastery. This is all about ensuring that we're consistently meeting and beating our customer or our client expectations, and that we've got mechanisms in place where we're continually getting feedback from our customers and using that feedback to course correct. Most of my clients say, hey, Tim, I believe my customers are happy because, right, they never complain. But here's the thing, most customers are not going to complain. If they're mildly dissatisfied, they're just going to continue to be with you until they find somebody that is better. And the only time you're going to know that they're dissatisfied is when they tell you that you're fired. Okay? So what we want to be doing here is be proactive and get that feedback on an ongoing basis so that we can address any problems before they become so bad that our customers leave us. All right, and then we move to step two, again, is niche or niche. So back to that definition, we're now looking at building a commercial profitable enterprise. And the reason that it's profitable, back to what I was saying earlier about what's the definition of a niche. A definition of a niche business is that we have no price competition. Okay? So what I mean there is, if the only reason that your company exists is because you're offering the best price, you're actually setting yourself up for bankruptcy, because someone bigger than you is always going to be willing to undercut you to steal market share. And then it becomes this death spiral to the bottom. So the most important thing here is to be protecting yourself against that price war. And I know a lot of people have a concern about raising prices. So what I ask of folks here is, how many of you believe that the only reason your customers buy from you is because of price? Yeah. There's actually been numerous studies done that, so most people are so concerned about price, but there's been numerous studies done that price is actually only about 10% of the reason that people buy, with service levels and liking the salesperson coming up much higher on the list. So if you're not already doing so, make sure that you're taking a price increase at least every year. If you haven't taken price in a while, look at all your items and take at least a 10% price increase across the board. I have a client who's raised their prices 3 times in the past 2 years, and as a result of that has achieved a 200% increase in profit. So how do we then be able to increase our prices? There's 2 things that you need to focus on. First is creating a unique selling proposition, or a USP. This is the thing that differentiates you from your competitors, right? That allows you to charge the price that you need in order to have a sustainable business model. So if you don't have a clearly defined unique selling proposition, the thing that differentiates you from your competitors, I would write that down as one of your homework assignments from this webinar, is to get that articulated and start using it in your marketing activities. The second is to offer a guarantee. Determine what is the number one hesitation of your customers buying from you, and then guarantee against that. So for example, the number one hesitation of business owners working with myself as a business coach is the concern of, well, what if it doesn't pay back, right? What if it doesn't work? What if we don't get a return on the coaching fees? So we have a guarantee. Our guarantee is that within 17 weeks of working together, your business will grow enough to pay for my coaching fees, or I keep working for free until it does. Okay. So as you can imagine, by offering that guarantee, it gives business owners, right, a much better perspective on embarking on a coaching journey, because now it's no longer a cost, it becomes an investment that they're going to see a return on. So if you don't have a guarantee, come up with a guarantee. If you're struggling with coming up with a guarantee, think of something that you have to do by law, and then just guarantee that, because chances are you're the only one that's going to be offering it as a guarantee. And so you're going to differentiate yourself versus your competitors. All right, the other thing that we want to focus on in the niche step is testing and measuring. We need to make sure that everything that we do in our business, we are evaluating it to ensure that it actually is having an impact on our business. So we have a tool that we call the 5 ways to massive profits. And let me talk through a little bit of how this works. So most business owners know how many customers they have, they know what their revenue is, and they know how much profit they make. So from these, what do you think is the most important one?
Number 3.
Okay, profit. How about the others? What would you say is the most important?
I would say
Oh, Tina, you got muted for a minute.
Oh, I said I would say revenue.
Okay. All right. Well, here's the thing. It's a trick question. And the reason it's a trick question is because these are all results. You can't just go out tomorrow and get, another customer or increase your revenue or increase your profit. Right? So this is where it gets really exciting. We have this tool that we call the 5 ways to massive profits because there's 5 areas that you can improve on tomorrow and the next day that actually lead to those 3 areas that are results. So the first is your number of leads. So the number of estimates or the number of proposals that you're writing. Then conversion rate, right? What percentage of those leads are you turning into customers? So leads times conversion rate equals customers. Number of transactions, that is a measure of repeat business. So on average, right, how many times a year do your customers buy from you? Times average dollar sale, on average, how much do they spend with you each time they buy from you? So customers times number of transactions times average dollar sale equals revenue. And then profit margins. So revenue times profit margin equals your profit. So those 5 areas, leads, conversion rate, number of transactions, average dollar sale, and profit margins, are things that we can actually change and impact over time that will result in more customers, more revenue, and more profit. Okay. So let me give you an example here just with some numbers to give a little more context to this. So let's assume this business has 4,000 leads, right? Or 4,000 estimates or proposals that they did over the last year, and their conversion rate was 25%. So 25% of those people became customers. So 4,000 times 25% is 1,000 customers. In this example, number of transactions is 2. So on average, those 1,000 customers bought from this business 2 times a year, right? So it's average. So some customers may only have bought 1 time. Some customers may have bought 6, 7, 8, 9 times a year, but on average, across the 1,000 customers, they bought 2 times. Okay. Average dollar sale is 100. So same idea about it being average. Some customers may only have spent $10 each time they bought from you. Some customers may have spent $1,000, but on average, across all the customers, they spent $100 each time. Okay. Does that all make sense? So then we've got 1,000 customers who spent 2 times or bought 2 times a year, and they spent $100 each time they bought. So 1,000 times 2 times 100 is $200,000 in revenue. Profit margin is 25%. So that means 25% of the revenues went to the bottom line. So 200,000 times 25% equals 50,000 in profit. So one of the things to think about is how many of these numbers do you know for your business? Because the old saying holds true is that if you don't know your numbers, you can't grow. When we start working together in a coaching relationship, we actually have 350 strategies across these 5 areas that have proven to work with our clients. And we give you that. And one of your first homework assignments is to review that list of 350 and come up with 1 or 2 for each of the 5 areas. All right, we're going to come back to that formula in a minute, but let me go through the rest of the steps in the 6 steps. So next we're at leverage. And back to our definition, we now have a commercial profitable enterprise that works. And the reason that it works is because we're focusing on making the operation run more efficiently and effectively through leverage. So leverage is all about systems. Okay? And we define systems as saving yourself time, energy, and money. Okay? So how many of you, when we used to actually drive to work instead of work from home, how many of you took the same route every day? Show of hands. And why did you do that? Why'd you take the same route?
Convenient.
Yeah, yeah. Most direct, it's convenient, it's the most efficient, and most likely when you were driving that same way, your mind was probably wandering and thinking about a whole bunch of things that you needed to get done. And if you've ever had the unfortunate, situation of being in an accident, you probably can't recall the things that happened right before it because you're in autopilot mode of driving, right? Right? You don't think about anymore where the turn signal is or where the brake is or where the gas is, right? Or where the windshield wipers are to turn it on when it starts raining. It's just automatic. The same thing applies to your business. Okay? So about 80% of the things that we do in our business are routine. And so just like driving the car, we need to systematize the routine so that we can free up the other 20% of the activities and humanize those. So there's 9 steps in systematizing a business. The first is having a vision for your business, having that vision actually written out into a vision statement, writing a mission statement, creating a culture statement. What are the values and the beliefs of your organization? Writing out your SMART goals. So back to the question earlier, in terms of, how do you write a goal? Well, you follow this principle of making it a SMART goal. You want to have your organization chart defined. Right? What are all the roles in the organization and who reports to who? Within each role, you want to have a positional contract, right? What are the roles and responsibilities of each person in your organization? Each person should have key performance indicators that you're tracking on a weekly and monthly basis. Every activity in your operation should have a how-to system written for it, a how-to manual or a procedure manual on how to do those things the most efficient and effective way. And then we need to have an overall management system. How do we manage our employees? Right? How do we make sure that people know what they're supposed to do? How do we keep them on track? How do we make sure that we're giving them coaching and guidance and direction? So when you implement these 9 systems into your business, you create a business that runs more efficiently and effectively and frees up everybody's time. All right, so then the next step is team. And back to our definition, team now is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without you, without the business owner. Okay? And so this is all about ensuring that we've got the right people on the bus, they're sitting in the right seat on the bus, and we've set them up for success. So when we do that, we then have a process or a structure in our company that looks like this. So you, the owner, are responsible for the strategic direction of the organization and taking care of your team. When you take care of the team then takes care of the customers. When the customers are taken care of, they take care of the business through repeat business and referrals. And then when the business is taken care of, it takes care of you, the owner, through the profits that it generates. So most business owners are focusing on all of these areas, right? And they're juggling multiple balls. And as the business grows, some of those balls start to drop, right? Because they just don't have the capacity to be able to do everything. When you have the systems in place and the team in place, you can pull back and trust that infrastructure to be able to run the business for you. So there's 6 keys to a winning team. The first is having a strong leadership in the organization, not just you, the owner, but developing a leadership team as well, or a management team. You have to have a common goal. The team needs to know, what it is that they're all striving towards. You have to have clear, defined rules of the game. So just like in sports, people need to know what is a 5-yard penalty versus what is going to be an ejection from the game. Your employees need to know that as well. there's got to be a clear action plan of what needs to get done each week of the year, and who is responsible for getting that done, and how are we pacing towards getting those things done. Got to create a culture of supportive risk taking, right? People are going to make mistakes, going back to learning how to walk, right? We're all going to make mistakes. And so you've got to create an environment where you support risk taking, you support people making mistakes, but you also have an overall safety net so that people can't make too big of mistakes. And then finally, you've got to have an environment where it's 100% involvement and 100% inclusive, so that folks feel like they're part of the team, they're part of the big picture, right? They're part of this bigger thing, and they know the role that they play in helping to create that bigger win for the business. All right, and then the fifth step is synergy, and the sixth step is results. So this is where synergy is where everything that we just talked through, it seems to be clicking in your business, right? You've got that 1 + 1 = more than 2, right? You've built a well-oiled machine that can run without you. When you've got that well-oiled machine that can run without you, you have the business owner are able to pull back and start to think about what's next, right? Maybe you want to take all of this learning and open another location or start another business. Much easier to start another business now that you know how to run a great business by implementing all these best practices that we just walked through. And then ultimate results, this is where you've got multiple streams of passive income that are giving you the freedom, flexibility, and wealth that you desire to be able to enjoy your life. All right, so now let's go back to the little business that I shared with you earlier. Okay. And let's think about when we implement these 6 steps to running a great business that I just talked you through, plus in each of those 5 areas, we start to implement 1 or 2. Remember, I said there's a 350 strategies that you get when we start working together to implement in your business. So just by tracking your business this way, without doing anything beyond just tracking it, on average, our clients see a 10% increase in each of the 5 areas, because what gets measured gets more focus. And when we're focusing on something, we just naturally get better at it. Okay? So imagine just on average a 10% plus those 350 strategies. We pick 1 or 2 to implement over the next 12 months. Given all that, do you think it would be reasonable to assume we could see a 10% improvement in each of those 5 areas over the next 12 months? Yeah? Okay, so let me show you what that looks like in terms of actual numbers. So in year 1, if we were to see a 10% increase in leads, and let me give you an example of one of the strategies that you could implement here to improve your leads. You reach out to the customers that love you, and you say, hey, would you refer me to or introduce me to other people that you know that would be open to my services or open to the products that I sell? And because they already love you, they're going to speak very highly of you to their friends and family that they can introduce you to. So we implement a strategy like that. We see a 10% improvement. So we go from 4,000 to 4,400. Okay. All right. Conversion rate, same idea. We implement a strategy or 2 here. A great strategy is use those same customers that love you and have them write you a testimonial or a reference, and then use that with future prospects. And by them reading about another customer that loves you, it's going to help them to decide to buy from you faster. And so you're going to improve your conversion rate. So a 10% improvement on a conversion rate would go from 25% to 27.5. So notice it's only a 10% increase, not a 10-point increase. Okay, so 4,400 times 27.5 means that our customers go from 1,000 to 1,210. Number of transactions. So again, this is a repeat business. So let's, here's a great strategy. You reach out to people who haven't bought from you in a while, and you offer them some type of loyalty program or incentive to come back and buy from you one more time. So there, loyalty cards are one, right? Where if you buy 10 times, the 11th time you get a discount. Another thing is if you buy this month, right, you'll get an add-on bonus to your purchase. So there's a number of different ways that you can increase those number of transactions to get people to come back and buy from you more often. So 10% increase here would go from 2 to 2.2. Average dollar sale. An example of ways to increase your average dollar sale is to have tiered pricing. So have a good, better, best pricing model, because if you only have one price, there's some percentage of your customers who are naturally programmed to want to have the Cadillac version. So if you don't offer the Cadillac version, you're leaving money on the table because they don't have the opportunity to buy it. So think about in your business, how do you implement a Cadillac version? Another way is upselling. So think of McDonald's, right? You place an order at McDonald's. What's the first thing that the cashier says to you? Would you like fries with that? Right, exactly. So what is your would you like fries with that option in your business that you can offer as an upsell? So 10% increase here goes from 100 to 110. So 1,210 customers times 2.2 transactions times 110 average dollar sale equals 292,820 in revenue. Profit margin, a 10% increase here. I mentioned it earlier, take a price increase. Look at your items, take at least a 10% price increase. There's likely items that you can take more than a 10% price increase. To go back to the concern that I always hear about, we can't take price. Here's what generally happens. The people that are only buying from you because of price are most often your least profitable customers and most often your biggest pain in the arse customers. So by taking a price increase, you actually have them leave you. It makes you more profitable and it frees you up to go after more profitable customers because you now have more capacity. So if there's one thing to write down as homework from this evening, it's to take a price increase tomorrow. All right. So if we take that price increase, we go up by 10% on profit margins. We go from 25 to 27.5. So we times that by our revenue and we get a profit of 80,525. Here's the awesome thing about this formula, this 5 ways formula, is it has a multiplier effect, right? All of those are multiplication from the top to the bottom. So changes you make at the top have a multiplier effect as you go down. So our customers went up by 21%, our revenue went up by 46%, and our profit went up by 61%. So show of hands, how many of you'd like a 61% profit improvement over the next 12 months? Or an incremental $30,000? Yeah. All right, so let's look at what this would look like over 5 years. If we did this same strategy, adding a strategy in each of those 5 areas, getting a 10% improvement in each of those 5 areas, what that would look like over 5 years. Okay? So in year 2, the profit would go up 159% from the $50,000. In year 3, 317%. In year 4, 571%. And in year 5, almost 1,000% improvement in profit. So almost a $500,000 improvement in profit by simply implementing, one strategy in each of those areas and having a very modest improvement of 10% across each of those 5 areas. Thumbs up. Would you like 100 or 1,000% profit improvement over the next 5 years? All right, fantastic. And do you feel like, implementing one strategy in each of those 5 areas and just improving by 10% is something that is feasible? Does that all seem like it makes sense once you have the strategies that when we start working together? All right, so let's end off here with a couple of quotes. So first, Richard Branson. He says, if you can learn to run one business, successfully, then there's no reason you can't run any number of businesses at the same time because the principles are the same. So what I just took you through in terms of the 6 steps and the 5 ways, these are the foundational principles of how great companies are run. These are the best practices of how large corporations are run. And what we're doing is breaking it down into more manageable, understandable pieces so that, small business owners who are juggling multiple balls are able to implement these into their business over a process over a quarterly period, right? Working quarter to quarter, month to month. Okay, Jim Rohn says, never wish your life were easier, wish that you were better. He says you should be working harder on yourself than you do on your job. All right, and here's how we sum that up in the action coach world. We say the formula for life success is B times do equals have. So we all want to have certain things out of life. And generally speaking, for business owners, it's at a high level, it's freedom, flexibility, and wealth. And we each define those differently, but that's what they all roll up to. And as business owners, we've decided that in order to have that freedom, flexibility, and wealth, it's a much better path to get there by working for ourselves than it is working for someone else. But then here's the problem that most of us face is we spend all of our time on do. So in the formula B times do equals have, we focus on working harder, working longer, and figuring out maybe how to do more within those hours. But the problem is there's only 24 hours in a day. So we'll all hit our own capacity, right? Where we tap out and it's just impossible for us to do anymore. What I've found is that somewhere around between the 300,000 and the, call it 800,000 or 900,000 in revenue is where that generally happens for a small business owner, where they've figured things out, they've gotten their business growing, right? They're having success, and then they hit a plateau. Or the business actually shrinks, and then they go through this roller coaster ride of business shrinking, business growing, business shrinking, business growing. The reason for that is because the business owners hit their own capacity, and the business is not able to grow beyond their capacity because they're trying to do everything themselves. So this formula B times do equals have is, as business owners, we've got to focus on becoming a better version of ourselves, right? Becoming a business owner that can build a business that can run without us, that can implement the processes and the methodologies that I just talked you through. And let me use a formula here. Let's say we have 1 unit of B, 1 unit of do. So 1 times 1 equals have. If we got really good at doing, let's say we improved from 1 to 10. So now 1 times 10 equals 10. If we take 5 units of that do and put it into becoming a better version of ourselves, now 5 times 5 equals 25. So what we get out of life changed from 10 to 25 just by reallocating our time and our focus on becoming a better version of ourselves, becoming a leader that can find and attract and retain great employees, that can implement processes and procedures in the business to run more efficiently and effectively, right? Can lead and manage teams to be able to do things even better than we could do it ourselves. All right, Brad Sugars, our founder and CEO, says, where you'll be in 5 years from now will depend on the books you read, the people you associate with, and the actions you take. So who are you associating yourself with? Right? What books are you reading? What videos are you watching? Right? What seminars are you attending? Because the reality is we're either growing or we're dying as a business owner. Jim Rohn said that you'll be the average of the 5 business owners that you spend the most time with. So again, who are you surrounding yourself with through books, through videos, through seminars, through mentors, through coaches? What are you doing to become a better version of yourself? So when my clients, I invite them to workshops. We do quarterly planning sessions together. We attend conferences together. There are online videos and different seminars that they're able to attend so that they're always it's a mandatory part of coaching that every week they're investing in something to become a better version of themselves. All right, and we're going to end here with Tiger Woods. So he says, no matter how tough you think you are, you can't do this on your own. And he's referring to the value of his coach and his support team. So I often get the question of, hey, Tim, how really does a business coach help me, right? Ramon, I saw your note. Fantastic. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for staying up so late for us. I am recording this, so you'll be able to, I'll send you out a copy of the final few slides here. Have a great night. All right, so the answer to that question of, how does a business coach really help me? Think of it from a sports analogy standpoint. Right? If you think of all the best athletes in the world, they all have at least one coach, if not multiple coaches, because they know that to be the best that they can be, they can't get there on their own, like Tiger Woods said here. All right, so let's go back and think about the goal that you set at the beginning of this webinar, right? The one thing you wanted to get out of the webinar this evening. Okay. So as you think about that, did you at least learn one thing that you can apply to your business right away? Show of hands or thumbs up. Wonderful, fantastic. So here's the important thing about that. Make sure you write it down. Write down your key learning from this evening. And more importantly, write down the number one action that you're going to take to implement that key learning into your business. And give yourself a due date and determine how you're going to hold yourself accountable to that. The mistake that a lot of us make, right, is we attend things like this, we take a lot of notes, then we push the notes off to the corner of our desk and go back to our busy day-to-day fighting fires. Okay? So take the time to really ensure that you've got a mechanism in place that you're going to hold yourself accountable to implementing that number one thing from this evening. All right, so remember at the beginning, I mentioned that we'd be giving you an offer that you'd be crazy not to take advantage of. So there's two things that I generally hear at this point of time in the webinar. The first is those who say, hey, thank you, Tim, for the information. I've learned a ton. This has been fantastic. I've made a number of notes and I'm going to take it from here. I'm going to give this a shot on my own and I'm going to implement these things in my business. There's other folks who say, hey, I want massive results. And you might be asking yourself, like, how do I get more details on what I learned this evening? So this is what I do. And this is what we do as a coaching firm is, as your business coach, I work with you to implement the 6 steps that we covered this evening. And I become your uncomfortable friend who pushes you when you need that proverbial kick in the butt, right? Who confronts you when you're in those blame, excuses, and denial, and who reminds you of your end game when things get tough and you want to quit. Because business is hard, right? And I guarantee you, there's going to be times that you want to quit. But just like a sports coach who continually pushes the athletes to excel, you would have hired me to do the same for you so that you can achieve the business successes you want in order to realize the personal dreams that you have for yourself. So I won't let you give up on yourself. So if you are that number 2 person, if you choose that second option, if you want massive results and you're ready to do whatever it takes to get there, I've got a special offer for you. I figure there's no better way to know if we should be working together in a coaching relationship than to actually do a coaching session. And the first one's on me. Okay? Everyone watching this webinar is invited to have a complimentary coaching session with me valued at $2,500. I have a limited number of these that I offer each month. So if you're ready to take your business to the next level, I encourage you to jump on this right away. And let me explain how that coaching session works. So first of all, you'll fill out a brief questionnaire that gives me some background on your business. Okay. And then we'll jump on a quick phone call, because I usually have some clarifying questions to make sure that I'm fully prepared to give you the best value in that coaching sessions. Then we'll get together for 2 hours and we'll do a deep dive into your business to show you how our methods will help you and help you determine if coaching is right for you. If we both agree that it makes sense, I'll ask you to make a decision about which coaching program is right for you. You're guaranteed to walk away with at least one strategy that you can implement on your business right away, because my passion is growing businesses and coaching business leaders to excel. So I want to make sure at the end of that 2 hours, you've got something that tangible that you can implement in your business to make it worth spending those 2 hours with me. So if you want to take advantage of that complimentary coaching session, please send me a message and I'll reach out to you to get that set up. You can email me here with the email that's on the screen, or you can give me a call if you want to put a message on the chat box here. I'll also send you a follow-up email with those details, along with a recording of this session, so that you'll be able to take advantage of that. All right, so now it's time to take action. Okay? Again, make sure that you have that number one thing that you wrote down in a format that you're going to be able to hold yourself accountable, so that you don't lose the learning from this evening and just get caught back up into the daily fires of your business. Make sure you have somebody to hold you accountable, or some way to hold yourself accountable. Make sure that, again, that you're taking that action to benefit yourself. Fantastic, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.